Good day, everyone. I'm Frederick. I'm just want to record that quick video to show you how to get started with the Kailo dataset and Tableau. How to get it from the Canada page, but more so for you to get a good understanding of how to get started. So I'm gonna share my screen and show you a few tips and tricks. Very, very simple stuff, but I just mentioned those. The very first thing, as you would know, the case data is with Kailo and is in week 9. One other thing I think I've explained briefly in the guest lecture on week 7 is before you jump to Tableau, make sure you understand the background information about the organization, about Kailo. So I think that'd be my very first advice is spend a lot of time reading about the information about the business, understanding what the business does, the product and the services. You can see it's quite comprehensive. I'll go back to that, which are the 2 datasets you're going to be using and importing those to Tableau. And obviously you need to download them to your computer. But the critical bit information is those questions that you need to answer. So all that spend some time writing up some questions. Those are guides. Obviously, you don't understand the Kailo data yet, so you need to spend some time. You're not in that industry. So we thought it would be useful for you to have a few questions to basically guide you in your analysis. So you don't go in a wild tangent without knowing. So to recap, absorb and read about the content itself on the Kanban page about Kailo. There's a website you can have a bit of a browse. Read about the question as well. Those are guides only, but I think if you answer those questions, you'll be meeting expectation. And the next step is to analyze the Excel file. So what I would do is I would just basically download those 2 Excel files. You can see I've just stuck them in a folder on my desktop. But I think that's another trick is when you download them, just create a folder on your desktop called Qt BSN, whatever, or Qt assignment, because you're going to have those 2 files linked up to your Tableau. You need to make sure where they are, just in case you need to make some changes. There's a couple of files in there. As you can see, those are the files in there. I'm going to do a demo on the employee data. The other one is a bit more simple, but what I would do even before jumping into Tableau itself, just open the file in Excel and spend a bit of time with your team reading the file itself. Try to understand the way the file is structured. What I mean by that is you can see there's a bunch of headers. It's not super currency, but you can see there's a lot of measures. Those are the measures or the numbers you're going to be using to tell a story. And the dimensions, what we call the dimension in Tableau, don't worry about too much about this one because that's basically the way the data comes from. But this one is important, employee code. So that's the unique identifier of the employee. They're real staff. Obviously, there's no staff name for confidential information, but those people are real people. So those name codes will be duplicated because as you can see, there's data goes from July to April or February. So it's basically someone's activity over time. That's their job as well. So that person is a makeup artist, and she had 3 appointments in July, and so on. So what I would do is spend some time going through the columns there and really trying to understand what those things are. See, there's counts. So those are transactions, if you want. Value, those will be dollars. So obviously those are not dollars, they're just numbers, the transaction numbers. But if you go through the data set, there's service sales in there, There's product sales, so those are dollars. Count again, and there's other stuff in there, other columns. To help you out, we created a data dictionary, which is that file there. So obviously that file, that tab doesn't need to be imported to Tableau, but it gives you a bit of a definition of what those metrics are. So there's what you see there, the columns, that's what you see on the top there, row 1. And then basically us define those, well, employee code is a string, and that's employee number. The most important one are those ones, all those, because those are the ones you're going to be using for the analysis. So for example, service sales and product sales, the one I was picking out, those are there. Total managed sum of all invoices processed for product, as opposed to service sales, which is the same but for services. So services could be massage and so on. And product would be the product that they sell in a shop. And so on. You can see there's a bunch of activities there. Walk-ins, online booking, add-on, and so on. So they're all here. So number one advice is don't jump to Tableau. Go to the spreadsheet and really try to analyze and understand the way the data is structured and what those things mean. So you're not misled by the information. If you look at the other one, it's more like a summary data set. I'm just going to open it now. This one is the media star data. There's a bunch of tabs in there. So you can see that this one doesn't have employee details. It's more like an aggregated view of a month activity and so on. So for example, for Feb, this month, or last month, got service counts, revenues, and so on. See, all information is there, gift sales, and so on. Sales, those are the top level stats. So it's more like an aggregated kind of view that you'll be using in a annual report or financial report statement. And same thing, similarly, Oz created a dictionary that basically defines all the metrics in there. Pretty simple. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to have Tableau, see if I show you Tableau. So that's Tableau desktop. Just a quick little trick. I told you we apply for a bulk license with Tableau, meaning everyone's got a license. That's all. If you need to apply the code and you're not too sure, you just downloaded the demo version. You need to go to Help, Manage Product Keys, and in there, that's where you put your Tableau license. I've got a different license, but if you wanted to apply it for e-learning license, as a reminder, you need to apply for your own student license, not the bulk one, and then you need to apply the code in that section there. So it's Help, Manage Product Keys, and you put your serial number in there and activate. So we've got 2 Excel files, if you remember. Those are here. The Microsoft Excel worksheets. So I'm going to use the employee data to start with, just to give you a bit of a guide. So for that purpose, I'm just going to click on Microsoft Excel, which is this one. So connect to a file. I don't need the other options. Those are for different purpose, different type of data sets. So click on Microsoft Excel, go to desktop, Kailo. Those are the 2 files. So I'll just click on this one, open. That's the very first screen you see. You would have learned that stuff with your tutors, but that's just a quick reminder. On the left-hand side there, those are the 2 tabs that Google Sheet has. Obviously, we don't need to import this one because it's only information only. So the only one you need to import is the by the way, is the Kailo data. So I'm just going to drag and drop the table or the sheet in there. And you can see that Tableau imported the data. All the columns are here. All of them are here. So your first job is to check. So see, I don't know if you see on the screen there, but you can do that on your computer. And you would have gone through that process with the tutors. Every column, so that's a column, that's a column, that's a column. Tableau, give it a column type. So this one says ABC. When you click on it, it says it's a string. So they all, most of the time, 99% of the time, Tableau gets right. So that's a date. Let's see, there's a little date symbol there. Click on that. That's a date. Those are numbers. So in Tableau Word, they show up as numbers and so on. So it's always good practice to check that Tableau correctly assigned a type of field for every single columns in the dataset. As you can see, it seems to be correct. All of them been imported correctly. Product sales, it's this number, and it's all in there. The next step is click on sheet one, and you'll see there that you've got all the metrics. So all those are the sales value, the count. I was telling you the count is more like a transaction per employees. The date is there, employee code, the job, and the work center. So all the information is in there. It's pretty simple. One of the things you could do for housekeeping is if you search for sales, product sales, service sales, those are the two columns that basically display the sales information. If I bring sales for product, so Tableau tells me there's 977,000, almost like $1 million of sales in there. If you go back to your spreadsheet, that's always good to double check those numbers. So the one I've used was product sales. And if you move that other way, you would see that I've selected product sales, that my column there, and the total of sales in my spreadsheet is the same. So it's matching 977, almost $1 million of sales, which is that number. So it's always good to validate that what you're doing is correct. But before you do that, what I would advise you to do is, because you know those things are sales, you might want to apply a formatting straight up from the left-hand side where the dimensions images are. So for example, for sales, you might want to display that as with a dollar sign and maybe with millions or $1,000. Because if I do it again, even if I put that in text, you can see it's not formatted yet. So Control Z, if I go product sales, right click, default properties, number format, that's a currency. I might just say decimal, and that's there where you can display, oh yeah, I want those cells to be displayed as maybe the thousands. So now if I go to product sales, see that that's displayed with a dollar sign and with the formatting there. You can change that. If you go back in there and go default properties, number format, you could say millions and product sales 1 million. So it's not the numbers are not high enough to be millions. So 1,000 is probably better. So I'll go back and go default properties, number format, thousands, and I would do the same with the service sales in there. Default properties, number format, currency, thousands. So those two sales metrics now, if you look at them, they're displayed as dollars and thousands. One other thing I also like doing, so I think that was a first bit of housekeeping. You could potentially do the same with the count. But obviously the count are not displayed as dollars because it's a transaction. So you might consider if there's a huge number of counts. So if I look at the count, invoice count maybe, if you put them in there, 32,000. So you could consider having that displayed as thousands. So like this one is 32,000 as opposed to the 5 digits, but that's really up to you to choose. So that's invoice count, default properties, number. So this time is a number custom. 1 decimal is usually better, and then thousands. And see now when over, it says 32.1K. So it's a bit easier to read sometime when you do your formatting. So formatting is the first housekeeping. The first task you should do when you explore a new data set is to create what we call a test table, just to explore. So what I like usually doing is I just drag and drop some dimensions and measures and start building a very, very simple table in there. So you can see that I just brought employee code in there. Those are the employees. I just brought dates in there. So by default, Tableau give me the year information. So if you go back to the data source and the column where it says date in there, see by default it's a day, a month, and a year. But by default, Tableau would give you the year information. So what you can do if you click on the down arrow there, you can change the way it's displayed. So you can even display that as, you can play with those options, but exact date. Tableau now gives you you can see now it become green, it gives you a continued period, so you can just change that to discrete period. So it becomes the header. So those are the various dates. So you just start exploring having those various dates, the way you want the dates to be displayed and so on. You can change that to a month, change that to discrete again. So now you got the dates in there, you got your employees. The way you display those columns, the order doesn't matter too much. It's up to you to decide. But just to get a view or exploring the data itself. So let's say I've got employee codes, number 3, got the activity there, or the months of activities, and I might just want to start bringing product sales. You see that by default when I bring one of those columns there, by default Tableau creates me an aggregation, a sum of product sales there. That's why it's green. If you want to display that as just a normal column, almost like a text table, just for checking purpose, it's always good to put that as a discrete number in there. See that the numbers show up. What I got you to do before was to add the formatting. You can see that, for example, employee 20 in June, you got 1.3Ks of product sales in there. If you fail, you should display the full cells. What you can do is you can right click on that field there and go format. And the format number is there, and you can, I think it's in pane, currency, custom. Oh, sorry, header. There's different places where you can add those things in Tableau. See now I'm changing. See, those are not case anymore. So sometimes it's good to be able to format. Sometimes it's not. At the employee code level, you can see that sometimes it's better to display the numbers as plain as possible. So I've got product sales there. If I just want to display all the sales numbers for that specific employees, I go service sales, I do the same. And I go discrete. Same thing, those were formatted, so I could just click on that and then formatting currency. So I don't format anymore as thousands, just the plain numbers, and so on. So see now I've already displayed a very simple text table that shows my sales by employees. When I told you to always double check, see that's my spreadsheet there. So let's say I could double check number 4 there. So just to make sure you got things correctly, employee code is in there. If you go, I don't want to see number 4. I only want to see this one. So the idea is when you do that, you just go back to your spreadsheet and you just validate what you've done in Tableau is matching what you got in your spreadsheet. Oops, I think I forgot one. So I'm only displaying, let's say I'm going to check the first few rows. So for example, if we're looking at, let's say October 2022, which is that thing there, 1,400 and 4,000. So if I'm going back to October, that's this one. October. Here we go. Those are the numbers there. So product sales, 1,400 and 4,300 for the service sales. That's for that specific row, for that specific employee. So what I've done is I just basically create a very simple test table, and you can call this one test table and keep that handy. Just so you can sort of validate, and then you can, for example, bring employee code in there and just filter just for one specific employee and check that specific employee's performance or sales history. Something I also might want to touch as well is you can see we've got product sales in there and we've got service sales. You might want to do a total of those two columns, which are those ones there. So those are done with what we call calculations. You would have done those with the tutors, but basically total sales. And the way it works is pretty simple. Let's say you're looking for the sales. I want product sales plus service sales. So there's different ways you can do it. You can drag and drop there, but we need a sum of. So let's have sum of product sales, make it a bit bigger, plus sum of service sales. The sum is important because you want to have the aggregation in your calculation. So now Tableau would give me the sum of product sales and sum of service sales, and you will see that Tableau would create me a new field, a new column called total sales. You could even call that total sales per employee. The way you name it doesn't matter too much. And then you got a new column there, and you can use this one in there. Because it's an aggregation, Tableau by default give you a chart, but for checking purpose, you can just turn that to a discrete number. And you can see that total sales for September. So 669 plus, that's it, that's the number. That's matching. That column is actually matching what we see there. Column A and column B equal this one. So you could also default properties, number format, as we did, because we know those are numbers, currency, custom, and so on. So now it's formatted with dollars. Now you've done your test table. I would advise you to just name it test table, keep it handy. But now if you click on new sheet, you go, let's show all my sales by employees. So because you calculated that field there, you click on that. Tableau gives you the list of all employees and all the sales. But then here you can just say, can you show that, please? I move that. Give me a bar chart. Okay, we saw that. So now I've got total sales for those specific employees. They're all there. They all show up in there. You can even, if you wanted, bring the job in there. So now you can see that that person is a manager, service provider, and so on. Or you could decide to display sales information by type of jobs. As you can see, the visual is completely different. Like we can see the front desk staff, and those are the sales numbers. Massage therapists, contractors, Those are the individuals and those are the cell numbers. A quick advice also is to always add labels in your view. You can see that there's numbers there. So if you wanted to, let's say, see that total cells, you might just want to analyze the type of job that are getting the most cells. Service provider, therapist, or maybe just a therapist as opposed to people at the front desk. As you can see that those are front desk people and those are people, clinicians. And that's some people that don't have any sales because they're accountants and so on. Others, you can see there's hardly any sales for those ones. Marketing coordinator a little bit. So you can see that in that business, all the people providing a service are generating the most sales. So what you could do is you could duplicate that and only keep the one that you care about, or filter out the stuff you don't want. So what you can do is you can click on that and then exclude. So as you can see on the left, that tableau, we're basically creating a filter and removing things you don't want that are now terribly useful. So that's one way. So you click on something, like I click on honor and exclude. The other way, if I go back to my original sheet, is I'm going to duplicate, and you can bring the job to filter in there. And in there, what you want to say, I don't want to see all those ones from desk and so on. So you're only keeping the type of roles you want. You can see I've got a filter there. I can go show filter. My filter is there, you can see, and you can just add and remove things to your view by default, which is pretty cool. Something also, but is always good practice. Let's say I'm going to remove employee code, duplicating that. So I'm just going to call this one cells by job and removing employee code, sorting that. So there's a couple of tricks you can use to make that chart a bit easier to read. One, you could consider using the total cells as a color. So you're coloring the bar. So obviously the bigger bar, the more cells there is. So for master's therapist, you can see that. The other way also is you might just say, oh yeah, those are not really super interesting. So you could decide to filter, but using the top total sales per employee, which is that measure we got there. You can see what I've done. I've told Tableau just display on top 10 cells by the measure, which is this one, total sales calculation. You could say, oh yeah, show me the top 20. So that's a nice little trick you got there to display maybe less information. But when you do that, I would encourage you to double click on that and then spell that out into your sheet title, top 20 cells by jobs, because you've sort of hidden away some of that information. You want to make sure that the user knows that you're only displaying top 20 cells by job. So that's a good trick. If you're, I'll just do it again. So you're just bringing job to filter, top by field, top 10 or top 20 or top 15 by the calculation you've created before, which is this one, and click OK. That's it. I'm going to duplicate the original one, which was, I think, this one. Duplicate. Now I'm going to show you how to job grouped. Just want to show you you can create groups, which sometimes is a bit easier to display when you want to have a visual that not that busy. So if you look at this one, so I'm only displaying total sales by jobs. You might see that some of the jobs are quite similar. Front desk, there's front desk, there's manager front desk. So you might want to group them. So you probably don't need to display the whole 35, 34 jobs in that table. Maybe that's not accurate or not necessary. So to be able to create a grouping, you right click on the job, you go create group, and in there I've got my table there, and I say, oh yeah, I want to group all the front desk people together. So I've selected the free front desk, and I'm just grouping them. Manager, C manager, I don't know, those might need to be grouped, or maybe those skiing therapist. See, this one is a typical one where looks like there's the same job, but there's a slight typo in the dataset, where this one has the underscore is a bit different. So what you could do is you could group those three skiing therapists because it's pretty much the same job, and then rename it. So that we've got less nurses, same thing. Those might be grouped because they're pretty much the same. So those are the things you need to double check. Therapist, there's one there. This one could be grouped. Maybe those ones, same. Those are the same job, but same thing. There's a typo in the data set. So that's something you can maybe put in your report as well. Is we've noticed there's a lot of typo in the data set, and ours can actually take action to fix those. Those are, I think, fairly similar. So you could group them and call that accounts. So we end up with less roles, less jobs. Manager front desk, maybe those two can be grouped and called manager front desk. So the purpose of doing that is you click OK. Now you see there's a group here called job group. You can click on that and go edit group and then do it again. But the purpose now is instead of displaying all those 34 roles, you can just bring this one there instead. Remove that and see now there's much less. So your data viz is a bit cleaner. You can still filter, removing those if you want. Like you go there and then just exclude. But that's a nice little trick to maybe have less stuff on your page. Something also I want to quickly mention is you saw with the data set, we've got month, date information there. So when you got that, it's always good to when you click on the date, I've just clicked on the date filter. So as I said before, Tableau gives you a date by the year. You can see there. Let's say I'm going to have dates and then total sales by employee. So that's my date and my sales for the whole business per year. You can see that's per year. Something that you would be super careful if you want to compare sales information is 2024 is only part of the year. So if you had to, for example, do a line chart, and so don't go too quick and say, oh yeah, there's a massive, just put the labels in there. There's a massive drop of sales, but keep in mind that we're only 4 months in 2024. So that's kind of normal. So don't pay too much attention to the years that are not even complete because it's misleading. But same thing with this one. Double check that we got all the sales information for all the months for 22 or only part month. So sometimes it's good to have the year that information, but make sure you're comparing apple to apple. So I've done a very basic trend line, sorry. You might just want to display month instead. That month, maybe it's a bit more useful where you see you can compare month over month. So October here to October 2023 to October 22. So looks like we've got the 2 months, October, December. So you can compare those numbers. Jan 2023 and Jan 2024. So you can compare those numbers. So for example, in Jan 2023, the business made 246,000 and can see 288,000. So a big increase. December, November, December information is in there. So you can see if there's any change, any pattern. You can also play with not always just going so sales trends, not always a big practice, and you probably play that with your tutors, but you can. So this one is displays all my sales information over time. $5 million of sales since the beginning, July 2022 to Feb this year. So you can play with bringing more information to the view and see if it's useful. I think, as I said in the guest lecture, it's not because you can do it in Tableau that you should. It's a bit of a spaghetti, but what you could potentially do with that kind of view is you could say, you might just want to look at the therapist, the skin therapist, for example, or a specific type of role. So I've got those. I've just displayed them by random. So you choose the type of analysis you want to do, but you might want to say, oh yeah, that's an interesting trend with those master service contractor in there. Is there a story or something you want to I don't know, more staff, or obviously we don't know how many contractors in there. For that you might be able to just add because there might be more than one master service contractor, because you only brought the job, not the ID, not the codes. But that could be good information. Something that you also would potentially do with Tableau. I'm going to turn that to a text table. So that's a very, very basic text table. So the way I did that, I just duplicated that's my trend line, go back to the show me and turn that to a text table. I'll just swap rows and columns so it's a bit easier to read. As you can see, those are the month sales value for the jobs in there. So you might be able to draw some information there. So that data there is the same as this one, but this one is a trend. This one is a table view or cross tab. Same data, same information, but displayed differently. But the reason why I'm showing you that is you can play with what's called Tableau calculated fields, which are in there. So for all those aggregated values, like this one, total sales, you can click on the down arrow there and go quick table calculation. And then there's a bunch of those. You can play with those. But one that we often use is one called percent difference. That's one, but you can see that by default, if you go by there, let's say I want to compare those numbers, the increase in there potentially. First of all, there's a couple of steps. First step is to go percent difference, but the next step is to go right click, edit table calculation. In there, you need to specify the job and the month of date. And Tableau gives you the percent of difference compared to the previous month. See now that's 3.2% compared to the previous month and so on. So that's the growth of sales over time, month by month. So if I do it again, so I've got the straight values. You can see that if we're comparing the massage therapy there, $103,000. And in Feb, we made 106 and then 100. So it's gone up a little bit. There, you can see this one went down a bit. It went down, went back up. So displaying absolute numbers like dollars is good, but sometimes having a growth number is always more powerful. So as I said before, you click on that, you go table calculation, percent difference, but then you need to change the aggregation level. So go edit table calculation and change it to month of date. And now you got in there the growth numbers. An extra trick is you basically created a calculated field in there. So what I'd like to do when you create a table calculation is you can drag it back on the left there and basically turn that into a proper calculation. You might just call that month-over-month sales growth. Because it's a calculation now, you can see it's been renamed. You can actually edit the calculation and you can take a look at the way it's displayed. So Tableau gave me the total sales is the value we were looking at. And then went back one. You can see one back one. And the growth is divided by the value of the previous month. So current month minus previous month divided by the value previous month. So you can reuse that calculation as well. So now because it's in there, I just dragged it. If you want to have the numbers, but also the absolute numbers, you can also, if you wanted, bring. It gets a bit busy, but it's good to be able to double check the numbers. I just brought the two together. So for those ones, you remember it was 106, 103, 100. So now I've got the percent growth and I've got the absolute number. That's all it there. So it's pretty cool to be able to create growth calculations. For that purpose, you might say, oh yeah, I don't want that in there. I just want to keep the growth, but I might just want to display total sales as a tooltip in there. So now when you hover, you can see that for Feb, 3.8 growth, but the asset number was 106. The other trick as well is you can see that calculation we've done there gives you compares February against Jan. But what about comparing February 2024 to February 2023, which are those numbers there? So let's say and this one is month over month, and that's probably going to be the last calculation I'm going to show you, and that should be enough information to get you started. So I'm going to duplicate this one. So I just want to remove that and only have the absolute numbers. Remember, so maybe we want to compare $106,000 to 68 for the Feb, or maybe the December information, the Christmas, 179. Because we've got that calculation there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate the calculation there. You could, I don't know, call that year on year or something like this. Month on year calculation. But the trick now is to replace 1 by 12. So we're basically going back 12 months. So same calculation. We're comparing the current information minus the previous one, but well back. And if I was to bring that new calculation I've created, so which is this one now, sales growth, bring that in there. You can see now, Tableau gave me the information, but at the month level, but comparing to the same months the previous year, which is pretty cool. So what I could do is I could just display the two just for you to check. But so remember, if we're checking $100,000 here compared to February last year, which was $68,000, you can see there's a 50% growth, which sounds about right. December, we made $100,000 this year. Last year we made 79, so there'll be a huge growth as well, plus 26% increase. August, we made 51. The previous year we made 57, so there's less. That's why it's minus 10%. And I'll remove that. You can even play with adding the colors just to strike. Maybe it's not super great to have colors in that situation, but something to keep in mind is you don't see the data there because there's no previous month. So for example, in June there, see the data start from July, so there's no data to compare against. As simple as that. And so on. I think you get the idea. You can play with those calculations. Even you can remove that. When you remove, because you remove what I've done, you just remove the group there. When you remove that, you can just edit the table calculation and make sure the calculation is based on the view information you got on the view. Because I've removed, you can see I've removed the group there. Those are the groups, the jobs. I'm only looking at the numbers, the big numbers over time. You can see that's now reflecting that, where we made 49% growth. So I think that's the purpose of that demo was to give you a bit of a starter. Obviously, the way you analyze the data is really up to you, but I just wanted to give you a quick introduction. The other data set is quite similar, but as I said, there's no employee code, no job, it's more top level information. I will introduce you how to make calculations. And there I'll introduce you how to make what we call table calculation, which are those things there, which are very useful when you want to display other informations. And otherwise, the way you visualize the data is really up to you on the way you want to display, I guess, the story and tell a message. So I hope you have fun with the data sets. And if you have any question, as I said in the lecture, there's a forum on the Canva page called Tableau, I think, Tableau community or something like this. Don't hesitate to ask me question in the forum rather than emailing me directly. Just ask a question in the forum so I can provide the answer for everyone. Thanks, everyone. Bye.